We're going to talk to Ramachander, Hitachi's Chief Commercial Officer for EMEA, who joins me on our virtual stage now. Ram, thank you for being with us this morning. So much of what we've heard over the morning has talked about specific challenges and particularly, obviously, some various focuses throughout the morning with our various speakers. But I just want to take a step back as we start this session and look at the global picture. What is the global picture? In your view, and in terms of how we make this transition and the areas that are going faster and are going slower.
Hi, Peter. Thank you for having me. It's a good question. I think there's several ways you can look at the global picture. So, as you heard from Ali this morning, our environmental goals that he's setting for us is a global one. So, our transition to our target to zero carbon or carbon neutrality, and then our value chain or our supply base transition by 80% or reduction by 80% is a global target. So therefore, all of our businesses across the world, manufacturing businesses, et cetera, will be following a sort of a cohesive policy of reduction based on a policy that Ali is driving. The second piece to really look at is in how we working with clients across the world to be able to help them transition to zero carbon themselves. So, as Ali mentioned again this morning, we have trains operating in 20 countries. We've made the joint venture acquisition with Hitachi ABB Power Grids, which operates across the world in terms of the energy system that they affect. So one of the things that I do in my role in looking after the social innovation business as Chief Commercial Officer is to start to thread together these global capabilities that we have in different regions. And then across our social innovation focus, we look at how each region and then each country is transitioning on a decarbonization level. So if for instance, you take Europe, we see Europe as being the fastest moving region because of the legislative framework that we've had historically and the amount of investments that we've had. So then what we're doing is our strategy is to really use Europe as the showcase, the learning ground. And then within Europe itself, UK is driving a very strong agenda with the Prime Minister's plan. But the European Union itself is making massive investments in decarbonisation as a whole across the continent. So when we start to look at solutions, we then start to look at how those policies are affecting at a regional level, and then how we're dealing with it at a country level in terms of the advancement of their own policy, and EV being a good example. Now, America is now coming on board with the announcements that President Biden's making, and therefore we need to keep an eye. But we take the best practice that we build in regions that are much more advanced and start to take that out as a global solution to those regions that are now coming into the fray. And I'll use EV as a classic example.